Hey comrades, what's up? We're going to talk about Persona 2 Eternal Punishment, which I just finished. And I played this on the PSP over the course of like 4 months or something, just like 30 minute to an hour's 60-minute time frames at a time. So I don't have like recorded video of any sort, and I'm just going to use my AI thing and make some art to slap up here to kind of keep track. But Eternal Punishment is an interesting thing, mostly because it's the whole naming thing with the Persona 2 games is kind of confusing. They are essentially, so there's Innocent Sin and Eternal Punishment, and they are not the same game, but they are also essentially just like part 1 and part 2 of the story, while being completely independent games that are exactly the same. So, which makes it kind of weird. So since I focus a lot on the story, we'll just chit chat. If you've seen my Persona 1 or Persona 2 reviews, this is just Persona 2. What is it? Innocent Sin? Yeah. With different characters. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same. I read somewhere that if people think it's more grindy, I thought it was equally grindy as the first two games. The Persona games, I mean, all these kind of older PlayStation, Super Nintendo. I think the original Persona came out on like the Sega Master System, like in Japan, maybe. They're part of the Shin Megami Sensei or Tensei series, which began on like the PC-88 or something in Japan. But the Persona is kind of a newer thing. These first games, if you're familiar with Persona 5, 3, 4, or 5, there's not like a romance system or any of that kind of stuff yet. That starts with Persona 3. So Persona 2, Eternal Punishment, it's really just kind of a bog standard JRPG in the way it plays. You have spells, you have attacks, you can choose different abilities, which are just like the different spells you're given, and you have combat, which is pretty straightforward. It looks different, and there is some, like the bad guys can move around, and I think it does have some effect, or your characters will like jump around to attack, and that can have some effect. I didn't really ever think about using it. I just, every now and then I'd notice a guy, like an enemy would use a spell, and then he would like move, or my characters would move, and then they use the spell again, and they would attack different people. So I feel like there was like some sort of tactics thing going on. But it's not like you can choose to move your characters. It's really like if you attack, sometimes they jostle about the battlefield. That being said, the game's pretty easy, I would say, to break because they have these things called fusion spells. Now, if I remember correctly, in Persona, in Eternal Sin, no, this is Eternal Punishment. In Innocent Sin, it would save your fusions. So if you used a fusion and then you went into like the next battle, it would just cast that fusion again. I know it did. It saved like it saved your spells in the first game. God, it's been so long. I've been playing these games for like 3 years now. So I'm definitely not cruising through them because I just play them when I'm at the gym or working out. But I did not like the system because you had to re-choose the fusion, and I don't remember that happening before. So before, it would like you get your fusion, like your nuclear crush or whatever, that would just like decimate every enemy, and you just like roll into battle and kill them and keep moving forward, which made the grinding a lot smoother. Yeah, I think they did do that in Eternal Sin, or I mean, Innocent Sin. But in Eternal Punishment, they do not do that. And so it's annoying because it's a lot more button clicks to just kind of like be grinding. And there were several hours of grinding in this game for sure, where you're just going to like they have these maps that you can just go grind it out. So you just go grind, level up your personas. So that's the unique thing that separates this from like kind of the more bog standard JRPGs that take after Dragon Quest or Final Fantasy, is that you can befriend demons, and then you can equip those. And they give you cards. You can chat up demons, and if you chat them up the correct way, they'll give you cards, and use those cards in the Velvet Room to summon demons. Sometimes those same demons that you were chatting, but just like based on the tarot, like the different classes of demons. And then once you summon them, you can equip them. And I apologize for my breathing. I don't know why I can't breathe and talk. Probably need to go to a doctor. So, which makes it interesting because in the first half of this Persona 2 franchise, I felt like it was much more important who was equipped with what and how they would level up. In this, I still think it's important, but I didn't. I could just like I feel like I could equip anybody with any of the demons, and they would like level up eventually. And then when you use these fusions, if you defeat enemies with fusions, and I think this was in the first one, I really didn't use it, but I used it more in the second one. They'll mutate, or they can like get new abilities or whatever. No, I don't think they did this in Persona 2 Part 1, essentially. Which makes it, it adds like another layer to like that kind of grindy like customization, because some of the demons you want to summon you can only get by like maximizing a persona and then mutating them and then converting them into like the new, like evolving them essentially into a new card, and then using that card to summon the persona you actually want. And they have sort of this system sort of exists in Persona 5, which more people are going to be familiar with, but this is like way more detailed and archaic. Like there's no hint. It's just like all of a sudden it's like, oh, I mastered this thing. Oh, I mutated him a few times. Let's go see. And it's like, oh, you can trade him for this guy. Okay, sure. Because the personas don't really level up with you, so you kind of want to you want to keep like upgrading them, or you just become too weak. And then you can buy like weapons and armor, which I almost never did because there's no point to it, because the personas are really the way to play these games. Persona 2 and Persona 2. The other one. So what's the story? So the story picks up once last we met our heroes. I'm going to butcher these names. Sukara. I'm going to call him Tsu. So Tsu and Maya were with a group of teenagers, Eki and June and Alice, I want to say, the blonde Gaijin one. And you had gone and fought Naruhothotep and defeated him, but then the only way to truly defeat him was to lose all your memories. And so then everyone was like, okay, let's lose our memories. So you did. And then at the very end, we see Maya bumping into Tsu again, and she remembers. And he remembers. He remembers everything, but she only remembers him. Oh, I know that kid from somewhere. And she's an adult. She's the one adult in this crew. And so Eternal Punishment focuses on adult characters. There's Baofu, Ulala, who you met, or Ula, it's not Ulala, I think it's just Ulala, something like that, who is Maya's roommate, and you meet her in the first game. So in both games you have Maya as kind of one of the main characters, and later on Tsu joins in the second game, and he's the main character of the first game. He's a silent protagonist, if you will. There is no silent protagonist in Part 2 here. And then his older brother, Katsu? Sure. Or Tsu something, I don't remember. He's around. He's a police officer. He joins. Baofu's a ex-Yakuza member, I think. And Ula is just some chick who likes to box. And Maya works for the newspaper in town. Before Tsu joins, it's just the crew. And then they meet up with one of the characters from the first Persona, who's all grown up now. And you get to choose. You want to go with one or the other. I can't remember their names. I'm not going to lie. And you can meet some of the other characters from the first Persona game as well. And you could meet some of them in the Part 1 of Persona 2. So what we find out is that this world is a different... This is the actual world. There's two worlds now. When you guys lost your memories, it kind of made a split, or at some point it split to two different worlds. And the fact that Tsu remembers means that he transported to this world or something, which is going to cause the end of this world. And so he has to find a way to go back, and he's doing all this stuff to try to save both worlds because they're going to collapse, or one isn't a real world or something. They end up it seems like they end up solving that problem, and it all works out at the end. I'm not going to lie, I'm at the gym running, so sometimes when the story is going on and on and on, I kind of check out. But that seemed generally what was going on. And then it continues to have our friend Butterfly Guy. What was his name? It's a golden butterfly guy. He's around. It's PS something or something. I don't remember. Not important. So he's around, but not as much as in the first one, as in Persona 1. It's so confusing. All right. So you guys begin to investigate the Joker. So again, the Joker in the first one, in Part 1 of Persona 2, ends up being June, and then ends up being Naruhothep. And he uses the power of rumors to manifest reality. And that's a heavy theme, and it's heavily used in the first one. In this one, it's more of just another system that you use to open up item shops, or to start quests, or to find people, or to unlock different personas or certain personas getting new abilities. I don't remember it really being that much of like a center of focus. Like it's kind of talked about, but it's important because they're like, oh, the rumors are creating like this Nazi legion at some point to like invade, and it's like creating this world, and so the Joker's there, but the Joker is far less of like a central evil figure that turns into Nyarlathotep, because it was like June being possessed by him at some point in Persona 2. In this one, it's just like a bunch of randos, or like this one's much more like, oh, you talk to some dudes, all right, next dungeon, all right, next dungeon, all right, next dungeon. It's like much more of a dungeon crawler, if you will. And I just feel like the story, I just wasn't as vested in the story. Like I just can't remember that much about it. And I played the part 1. Like I can remember more about like part 1 story than I can about this story, because it just seemed like very like it was just like, oh, we're doing this thing, and I'm upset, or like the Yakuza's involved, and everyone's got kind of their things they got to get over, and then you get to the final level, and then everyone has to face like their shadow self and overcome like whatever's going on, and then you fight Nyarlathotep, and he's hands down. Well, though there's this boss where you have to fight like the 3 other characters from the first game: Alice, Ginko, I think Jinko or something she goes by, Eki, and June in like metal form, and that was the hardest boss in the game. And that wasn't the last level. That was like the level before the last level. And then the final boss, he wasn't so hard as much as he was just kind of annoying. Like I had so many items. I had like maxed out all my like revivification and healing items. And so even whatever he did, but none of my attacks did that much damage. And the dude had like, I don't know, 20,000 life or something. And I'm doing like maybe 500 damage a round, if you will. And there's not like rounds. Like you set up, you essentially have like a tactical screen, and you set up like what attacks you want your characters to do, and you can change the order and stuff. And then they just keep attacking until you stop and like change what's going on. And they'll activate fusions by like happenstance. Or you can be like, cast this fusion, but after you cast that fusion one time, you have to go back and tell them to do it again. And then their speed affects things. So like if you set up somebody to go before someone else who's faster, it'll like wait, and you don't get like an extra turn by doing that. So it's usually more beneficial, from my experience, to just like allow people to attack in order, unless you're really hitting those fusions, like when you're grinding it out and you just like, I want Nuclear Crush, kill everything, and it does, and you're just like, cool. And the fusions aren't character dependent; they're persona ability dependent, and they usually be like, you have to cast like a fire spell, a water spell, and then another water spell. Or later on in the game, you have to cast like a specific spell, like Cyclone or something. I don't think it's called Cyclone, but so yeah, that's Persona 2 Eternal Punishment. Once you defeat Nyarlathotep the second time, because of course it's a JRPG, so you fight him multiple times. So once you beat him the second time, the butterfly guy shows up and like takes him, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna send Tsu back to his world, and you guys won't ever see each other again. And then you have a choice. There's every now and then you get like conversation choices, and in the first game, if I remember correctly, some of those choices were like very important. But in this one, I looked it up because I'm not going to play through this game again, ever. And they were not important at all. For like, I think maybe once or twice. So it was just like, whatever. I was like, cool, man, thanks for coming. Thanks for showing up, champ. I'll catch you later. And then you get like everyone's like living their life, and things are going well for everybody, and they're back to business, and the world's like exist. And then right at the end, you see Tsu right against it ends the same way the first part ends, but this time instead of bumping into each other like Maya and Tsu, Maya's just standing on like the edge of a road, and Tsu rolls up on his motorcycle, and she sees him and recognizes him because she didn't lose her memories this time. But instead of doing anything or saying anything, she just lets him go. Because this is like, remember the Tsu that was here was the one from the previous world, and then Maya was like merging with that one. And so that's how she got like the memories of the other world, which was causing some of these problems and convoluted bullshit, right? So I've enjoyed all 3 of the Persona games, or should I say 2 of the Persona games, part 1 and 2 of number 2. They've been fun, kind of like, I like, JRPGs are like my favorite genre. I go back and forth between them and like strategy games, like real-time strategy games like StarCraft. And when I finally get done with this Magic Knight Ray Earth video, I'm going to play Warwind, which is like an older strategy game. But I really like these games. I don't know. There's something about even the grindy aspect of it, which is just kind of like, I enjoy just getting stronger and getting stronger, and it's like, hey, there's like a very set way to do this. It's like I don't need to. I never feel like I need to get online and like master the ability to do this strats and like all this bull crap. Like I just want to like chill. I'm a chill person, so I just like to like chill. And it's like, oh fuck, this boss is like real hard. What do I got to do? Oh, I just got to level up a little bit. Cool. I'm gonna do that. Which is why I don't like action RPGs as much. Like Kingdom Hearts really like irks me because it's like, bro, I'm like the game's like, oh hey, you better be level 10 to fight this level, and I'm like, I'm level 25. I'm gonna destroy this level, and I barely beat it, and I'm like, the fuck. Like, what is happening? Because most of these action RPGs are not well made. Like there's like the FromSoft games are obviously a huge exception. I feel like the Final Fantasy 15 and 16 were well made in that regard, where it's like I could level up and I could like do my skills, and like if I understood like the basics how the game functions, it was like easy to play, which is what I want. Like I don't want some challenge and bullshit. That's not like, I mean, even Dark Souls games, like if you understand the mechanisms, they're easy. Like period. Like sometimes you have a build that's not optimal for like a certain boss, and so it's not as easy. But none of the fights are all set up in a way that it's like once you kind of like get that flow, they're easy. I'd say Sekiro was the only one that kind of like threw me for a loop. I never beat that game. I'm gonna have to go back. But that final boss, man, he kicked my ass for like days before I was like, I'm good. I've had a good time. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else to say. Would I recommend playing it? I mean, if you like Persona 5, then play Persona 5 Royal Edition. Or play Persona 4. I haven't played 3 yet. I hear they're making a remake, but I got the number 3 on my PlayStation Portable. So that's next up on the list for working out and such. So we'll see how it goes. It's a little more like the modern ones. I played Persona 4 and loved it. And then I played 5 and it was pretty good. I like the characters in 4 better. The characters in this are fine. I like the characters in part 1 a lot better. But this is just kind of like more part 1, but not as like good of a story, in my opinion. And I would say if you're going to play either of these, play Innocent Sin. It's better. I don't know if it's much better, but it is better. Cool. Catch y'all later.